Thank you. Honorary alderpersons and any members of the public viewing at home to this evening's council meeting, and to our members of the public joining us in the galleries. Please be seated. There is no fire drill planned for this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, please make your way from the chamber using either the fire escapes to my right or via the stairwell that leads off from the lobby outside the chamber. Please, can I also ask that your mobile phones are switched off or onto silent? Miss Willis, may I have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mayor. I've received apologies from Councillor Mary Glowett, Councillor Mark Gordon, Councillor Emma Jane McGrath, Councillor Sashi Marvaganham, Councillor Liz Noble, Councillor Josh Thorne and Councillor Helen Whitcroft. And some are joining virtually, but as you know, they won't be able to vote at the meeting.
Moving on to agenda item 2, I propose that the minutes of the meeting of the Council held on 22nd of October 2025 be approved as a correct record. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to second those minutes.
Is that agreed, members? Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. We are aware that many councillors will have had some sort of association with Frimley Park Hospital at some point. I would suggest that you only need to make a declaration about Frimley Park Hospital if your association with the hospital is as a trustee or something similar. I also thought it would be helpful for any members of the public viewing the meeting for the monitoring officer to give a brief explanation on declaring interests.
Oh my God, what's going
Thank you, Mayor. As councillors, you'll be aware that there are 2 types of interest that you're required to declare at council meetings: pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. If it's a pecuniary interest, in simple terms, that means a financial connection, in which case you cannot participate in the debate or the vote, and you must remove yourself from the chamber while that matter is under discussion. If it's a non-pecuniary interest, which I think is what's relevant in relation to this, such as being a trustee of a charity or on a council-appointed representative to an organisation, in that case, that is a non-pecuniary interest, in which case you should declare that interest, but you can still participate and vote on the matter under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bertone. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. I would just like to declare what I believe to be a non-pecuniary interest, but I was a business supplier to Frimley Park Hospital, and I worked there myself for 2.5 years, but that relationship finished over 18 months ago.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Rise.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to declare a non-pecuniary interest. Between 2021 and 2023, I was a council-appointed trustee on the Frimley fuel allotments. I am no longer an appointed trustee. That ended in May 2023, and I just want to make that declaration for the record.
Thank you, Councillor Rise. Councillor O'Mahony.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to declare my non-pecuniary interest as a governor at Frimley Park Hospital. I'm also chair of PAC, so that might have some implication on tonight.
Thank you, Councillor O'Mahony. Yes, Councillor Rowlands.
Yes, I'd like to declare a pecuniary interest because I'm a member of the Frimley Fuel Allotments Charity Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lennon. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to declare an interest as a trustee of Frimley fuel allotments. I'd also like to declare that I don't know if I'm covered by a NDA from Frimley Park Hospital through the Frimley fuel allotments. I've seen an unsigned copy of an NDA, but I've not seen anything presented to me that I've signed as an NDA, so I think it's probably quite important that that's just on the public record. I don't know if that's the same for Councillor Rowlands or Councillor Betton.
Thank you, Councillor Lee.
I'm a trustee of Frimley Fuel Allotments.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like a point of clarification from the monitoring officer, if possible. Could we just clarify whether we're taking the NHS as an employer or individual trusts as an employer? I would think it's the second, but not the first, but I just want to clarify. Thank you.
Yes, that would be Frimley Park Hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to declare that's relevant to that item, all non-pecuniary, I can't get my mouth around that either. I'm trustee and company director of Carwarden House Community School. I'm a member of Surrey Heartlands ICB and Surrey Health and Wellbeing Board. I think it's relevant that my partner is a governor of St Augustine's Catholic Primary School. And my partner and myself act as donors, supporters and trustees of a number of Frimley Fuel Allotment supported charities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Garrett.
As we're listing what we are members of, I suppose, bearing in mind that the recent accounts of Frimley Fuel Allotments has supported 4 charities, which I'm involved in. I'm a trustee of Surrey Faith and Surrey, also supporting St Martin's twice, and Old Dean Community Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. No. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 4. Yeah. I'm advised that one question has been received from members of the public under Council Procedure Rule 10. The question has been submitted on behalf of Heatherside Residents Association. Ms Hibbard, would you like to come to the microphone and read out your first question, please?
Hi, thank you for having me here. I just point out it's Heatherside Ward Residents Association, but never mind. Is the council aware of any plans to designate the use of Frimley Fuel Allotments land to fulfil house building quotas?
Yep. Thank you, Ms Hibbard. I have been advised that the Built Environment and Regulation Portfolio Holder, Councillor Alan Ashby, will respond to your question. Councillor Ashby.
Thank you, Mayor. The site is not allocated for development and does not form part of the housing land supply for the Surrey Heath local plan, currently at examination. As submitted, the local plan identifies sufficient housing supply to meet the local plan requirement with a sufficient buffer. As a consequence, the principle of development for the site has not been established. There are no plans to allocate the site for housing development, and the council does not consider there is a justification to do so. The site has been promoted by the site agent during the development of the plan, including at local plan examination. However, due to the site not forming part of the local plan housing land supply, the site has been considered as an omission site during the examination hearings. An omission site is a piece of land that wasn't included in the local plan, but has been put forward by a landowner or developer as a site they believe should have been allocated for development. Whilst not allocated in the local plan, there is nothing to stop a planning application being submitted on the site. It is expected that a new national planning policy framework will be published before the end of the year, and this will likely introduce a more permissive approach to residential development. For example, it is understood that the Housing Secretary is due to announce plans that would block councils from refusing planning applications of more than 150 homes, instead requiring councils to refer the proposal to national government for a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. Ms Hibbard, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, please. Would the council consider placing additional protections on the Frimley Fuel allotments land to ensure its availability for future generations? Don't have to answer that now.
Like to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mayor. The site is already subject to a number of protections and designations. This includes being entirely within the countryside beyond the Greenbelt and subject to an area TPO. In addition, the northeastern edge of the site falls within the Thames Basin Heaths Special Protection Area 400-metre exclusion zone, which we know from recent High Court judgments means it cannot be used for residential development. Large areas of the site fall within the site of nature conservation interest. It is subject to a designated priority habitat. It falls within a biodiversity opportunity area. The site, as many people know, is bisected by the Southampton to London petroleum pipeline, which includes an easement where development cannot take place in the immediate vicinity. Whilst not site-specific protections, there are a number of other considerations that would have a bearing on the suitability of the site for development, including highways impacts, surface water flood risk, air quality impacts related to traffic generation, likely significant biodiversity net gain requirements, and wastewater infrastructure capacity. Noting the above, it is unclear from a planning perspective what additional protections could be placed on the site. In addition, noting that the local plan is currently at an advanced stage, it would not be feasible to introduce any additional protections beyond those already afforded to the site. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury, and thank you, Ms Hibbard, for your question. Agenda item 5, my announcements. It's been an incredibly busy 2 months since our last full council meeting. There have been many remarkable visits that I've thoroughly enjoyed them all. I attended a number of remembrance events, and I would like to thank all those members who attended services in their own wards. I felt the parade to the memorial through the centre of Camberley worked very well, bringing the act of remembrance into the heart of the town. I've had quite a positive response from that. I have continued my contacts with uniformed youth groups, hosting further educational visits to this chamber and my parlour for the first Windlesham Beavers. I was invited to form part of the panel to judge the Volunteer of the Year Awards, hosted by Voluntary Support North Surrey, and I must say the list of volunteers nominated was truly humbling. The sheer numbers of people who volunteer to support those in need across our borough is phenomenal. It was a very, very difficult task, and I and the other members of the panel had to select the award winners from the nominees. I enjoyed the afternoon at Chobham Golf Club, which was most enjoyable, and I enjoyed handing out these awards at this event. And I would like to thank all the Voluntary Support North Surrey for their hard work. I helped with the relaunch of the Craft Coop in its new location in the square, and also managed to pop into the Repair Cafe to catch up with the extremely talented volunteers. I've also spent a couple of evenings at Collingwood College helping with the awards for academic achievement and for the successful winners of the Duke of Edinburgh Awards. The young people inspire me with their enthusiasm and positive outlook on life. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas out there. Oh no, it isn't. And we visited the pantomime. Can I urge everybody to get down to the Camberley Theatre? It's a fantastic event. We thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And our shopping centres are looking absolutely magnificent with all their decorations. I've also assisted with switching on some Christmas lights in our area. And I never, ever thought I would have the good fortune to share the stage with a true rock legend and a hedgehog called Grace. Very nice. Fortunately, my newfound friends from Windlesham Beavers were there on hand to lend me moral support. As we look forward with uncertainty, I would like us to appreciate how fortunate we are to live in Surrey Heath and to recognise the contribution that Surrey Heath Borough Council have made to our area over 53 years. During that time, we have enjoyed our partnership with our twin towns of Bietigheim-Bissingen and Soucy-en-Brie, and many thousands of our residents have enjoyed exchange visits and cultural activities with our European friends. Unfortunately, due to the COVID pandemic, we were unable to mark the 50th anniversary of our twinning in 2021, and so I'm planning to invite delegates from our partner cities to visit us next year to mark 55 years of our union. The plans for this are in very early stages, and we're working collectively with local businesses to sponsor this exciting celebratory weekend planned for April. To coincide with these celebrations, I'm planning to host a special talent show at our theatre, Surrey Heath Stars, to showcase the immense talent we have in our borough. This will be the flagship fundraising event to raise much needed funds for my chosen charities, and I would like to encourage any businesses or individuals to get involved to ensure that the show is a fantastic success, and help will greatly appreciate it. Will be greatly appreciated. I would like to finish with a huge thank you to you all for the hard work that you do in selflessly representing our residents. Thank you. Agenda item 6, I would like to invite our leader, Councillor Sean MacDonald, to advise the Council on changes to executive arrangements. Oh, sorry, item 6. Racing ahead there. I would like to invite the leader also to make his announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to see you keep me on my toes. Firstly, as we enter the festive season, I wanted to mention, as the Mayor did, Camberley Theatre and our wonderful pantomime Aladdin. If it's half as good as the Chief Executive's update on Monday and the range of critic reviews I've seen, then it's well worth a visit by one and all. I'm pleased to report that the theatre is making huge successes in reducing its subsidy, making it not only one of the best loved venues in the county, but also a huge financial success in comparison to its rivals. Not only has the theatre been voted Outstanding Family Entertainment and Leisure Venue in the collectively Camberley Business Awards, it has achieved such an accolade whilst increasing its theatre transactions by 50%, generating more income from additional hirers, and made savings through reorganising its staffing structure. Camberley Theatre is a venue we should all be proud of, and as councillors actively promote within our day-to-day interactions. Secondly, you will see from the agenda this evening that the 12 local authorities in Surrey are collaborating on the implementation of local government reorganisation as quickly as possible with voluntary joint committees to be convened in the new year. We can debate more of the detail of this later on. Residents should be reassured that everyone is focused on making sure service transition is seamless and staff treated fairly throughout. My thanks to the Chief Executive in particular for his dedication, patience and diplomacy skills, not all related to working with me for a change, in moving West Surrey forward, where he is nominated to be the Deputy Senior Responsible Officer for the implementation. As members will be aware, the second consultation for the Community Governance Review commenced last Monday. Irrespective of views, it is essential that we encourage as many residents as possible in the unparished areas and those in the Windlesham parish area to express their views on local governance. In light of local government reorganisation in Surrey and the creation of a large unitary council in West Surrey, Gaining residents' views on how they wish to be represented is increasingly important, and their feedback will inform our actions as a council. A couple of staff development announcements to recognise. An environmental health assistant has achieved the professional licensing practitioner's qualification, and the senior green space officer has achieved a level 4 diploma in tree inspection and management. Well done to both officers involved on their achievement. I was fortunate, amongst others, to have time to spend with police colleagues for their anti-burglary campaigns held on the 12th and 20th of November. The campaign focused on locations of previous activity by thieves in Lightwater, Windlesham, West End, Chobham, Town, Watchet, Old Dean, Heatherside, Parkside and Frimley, so pretty much everywhere. With our police colleagues and fellow councillors, neighbourhood watch volunteers and our community safety and corporate enforcement team members, we offered advice and guidance on burglary prevention, which was much appreciated by residents. Councillor Garrett and I got to know PC Moss and PC Cooper whilst out and about, though it was confusing for them to have two Seans on their beat at the same time. This initiative resulted in a better outcome than any of us had bargained for, with 3 people in custody on the second night as they were seemingly caught in the act, with 1 arrested for an outstanding warrant for burglary outside of the area. And 2 were arrested also for being equipped to steal with tools and balaclavas deployed. On Saturday the 29th of November, Surrey Heath's corporate enforcement team joined police in the square in Camberley, engaging with shoppers and visitors and delivering messages linked to Ask Angela, violence against women and girls and drink spiking. The day proved to be very busy and lots of information and guidance was provided from both the police and council to residents. It would be great if you could build awareness within your networks of the resources available. I also wanted to let members know that with the help of our community safety team and Mr. Hall over here, especially, as well as the statutory agency partners and specialist independent resources, we are pretty much closing out the reporting stage of our 2 active, sad and horrific domestic abuse-related death reviews, with a number of local and national recommendations arising. These anonymised reports now feed into the Home Office for their review and sign-off before coming back to us for selected publishing. I am unable to go into details for obvious reasons, apart from to note, together as a team, we ensured a thorough and professional review was completed to respect the 2 victims' memory. May they rest in peace away from any harm and further pain. Thank you to all involved in these community safety initiatives. As we move towards winter, we mustn't forget those in greatest need. Today we held a winter support and wellbeing drop-in session in the square, and alongside community partners provided advice and support on debt, reducing your energy bills, healthy eating on a budget and more, including a winter clothes bank. Thank you to all those who donated clothing to the cause. In addition, I am pleased to note that Surrey Heath continues to support good causes through financial contributions, supporting our voluntary and charitable sectors to help those in need. Last month, Surrey Heath awarded over £250,000 to good causes, with the intention of providing even more funding for community benefit in January next year. Please, councillors, I implore you to reach out to your organisations in your area who would benefit from funding to support our communities. We continue to support job seekers through our partnership working with the DWP and Camberley and District Job Club, with a careers fair scheduled for the 28th of January at Camberley Theatre. Where else? This is open to anyone looking for a new job or wishing to explore local employment opportunities. In our property portfolio, I'm pleased to outline other successes, which include the Changing Places toilet in Camberley, designed for people with high mobility needs, will open on Monday, on time and on budget, making the town centre experience more endurable for more people. I think that's just a fantastic result, and well done to the team. Construction is steaming ahead of the paddle court at Lightwater Leisure Centre, and I saw the frame up today, commencing with the project on programme for a spring 2026 opening. Successfully completing the roofing works on programme and on budget to Camberley Theatre and the council-owned Camberley Bowls Club. And lastly, continuing progress on the project to demolish redundant buildings on the London Road block in Camberley. All the asbestos has been removed from the former Alders building by Christmas, improving the safety of the town centre for residents. Also in the square, phase 2 of the roof repairs have been completed in the summer, and that's provided great strides forward in resolving the leaks. The central square has been transformed, bringing in national brands like It's Squires and Auntie Anne's, improving the look and feel of the heart of the centre. Obelisk Way is now fully let and remains an incubator for artisan independence. Artwork projects are ongoing with local schools to share the borough's history. As we enter the final year as Surrey Heath Borough Council, final full year, the Chief Executive and all the staff should be really proud of the work they have done to move things forward for our community in the past year during much financial and local government reorganisation uncertainty. Thank you to you all. Lastly, I want to wish everyone a peaceful Christmas and a prosperous New Year. It is a special time of year to spend with family and loved ones, but please share a thought to supporting those in need during this festive period. As an example, I know, having done a shift of manual labour with the Bessem Food Bank team yesterday on organising the storage of 150 Christmas hampers, they would continue to welcome donations in kind or financial to help reach more people with some festive cheer. Please see our social media channel or their website for details. Thank you, Mayor. That ends Leaders' announcements.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Now on to agenda item 7. I'd like to invite the leader to advise the council on changes to executive arrangements.
Thank you, Mayor. There have been changes to one of the portfolios. This just reflects local government reorganisation primarily and the sharing of workload amongst the executive. The Housing and Communities portfolio holder, Councillor Lisa Feenan-Cook, has been allocated responsibility for some functions that previously sat in my portfolio. You will also be aware that Councillor Lisa Feenan-Cook has been appointed to the Vice Chair of the Employment Committee. You can see updated schedule in tonight's agenda. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Moving on to agenda item 7, executive committees and other bodies. Executive minutes and recommendations. Can I have a proposer for the executive minutes and the recommendations at minute 59/E? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the minutes of the executive of October the 21st, 18th of November and 2nd of December be received and the recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to second the minutes from those dates.
Are you happy to receive these minutes and agree the recommendation? Planning Applications Committee. Can I have minutes? Councillor David Ormani.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to propose those minutes.
Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to second those minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Performance and Finance Scrutiny Committee. Can I have a proposer for the Performance and Finance Scrutiny Committee minutes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to propose the minutes for the Performance and Finance Committee on the 5th of November.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I second that.
Thank you, Councillor Kang. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes? Audit Standards and Risk Committee. I have been advised that Audit Standards and Risk Committee minutes are still being finalised and will be received at the next meeting. Employment Committee. Employment Committee minutes and recommendations. Before I ask for a proposer, I have been asked to advise you that when discussing the staff pay award, the committee noted that councillor allowances would normally be increased in line with the pay award and wanted there to be further discussion on this matter. This does not form part of the recommendation you are being asked to agree and will be raised separately at a later date. Can I have a proposer for the Employment Committee minutes and recommendation at minute 20/EC?
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to propose. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David Whitcroft. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Pinan-Cook. Members, are you happy to receive these minutes and agree the recommendations? Joint Staff Consultative Group. Can I have a proposer for the notes of the Joint Staff Consultative Group?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to propose those minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Pinan-Cook. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to second the minutes of both of those meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. Members, are you happy to receive these notes? Thank you. Now we're on to item 9, motions. Members, there are 2 motions on tonight's agenda. Motion 1, I would like to ask Councillor David Omani to remove the motion in the agenda. Councillor Omani, I will invite you to speak on the motion once it's been seconded.
I propose that motion.
Thank you.
Who is going to second?
Do you have a seconder?
Happy to second the motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Whitcroft. Councillor Omani, would you like to speak on this motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Colleagues, officers and residents watching online and here at the council offices, I rise to introduce this motion in the same spirit as the one I brought to council back in October 2023, with respect, with gratitude and with a clear focus on the community we all serve. Frimley Park Hospital has been and remains one of the defining institutions of Surrey Heath. For decades, it has provided outstanding care to residents across the borough and beyond. Its clinical teams, allied professions, volunteers and military partners deliver excellence every day, often under enormous pressure. Many of us, myself included, know firsthand how vital their work is. My own family's experience has been exemplary, and I know that story is shared by countless others in this borough. Since our 2023 motion, the national NHS landscape has continued to shift, but the essentials here at home have not. Residents still rely on Frimley Park. Staff still give everything they have. And the foundation is now embarking on one of the most complex hospital redevelopments in the country. A once-in-a-generation opportunity that demands clarity, honesty, and the strongest possible partnership between the NHS and the communities it serves. As a ward councillor for Frimley, as chair of Planning Applications Committee, and as governor of the Frimley Health Foundation Trust, I see the scale of both the challenge and the opportunity. Our community cares deeply about this hospital. They want reassurance, they want transparency, and they want to know that their voice matters. Our MP, Dr. Alistair Pinkerton, has emphasised the importance of openness and community confidence, and I welcome that message because it reflects exactly what the residents have been telling us all. The motion does not direct the foundation, and it does not preclude any decision. It simply reaffirms a principle this council supported unanimously 2 years ago, that care must remain accessible, that brownfield options should be properly and seriously considered, that staff retention is essential, and that open engagement with the public must continue at every stage. Frimley Park has served the community with distinction for generations. Our role tonight is to honour that history, to represent the people who depend on this hospital, and to make sure the values of Surrey Heath are carried into the next chapter. I recommend this motion to the council and I hope that all members will support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Omani. Yeah, Councillor Whitcroft, would you like to speak on the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start this evening by saying something I never thought I'd actually say in this council chamber, which is that I have had 2 heart attacks over the years. One of them, in fact, happened sitting just over there. But before Councillor Quinn gets too worried, I'm sure the chair and table that he sits at was nothing to do with it. On both occasions of those heart attacks, like many people in this borough and the neighbouring areas, I was treated by the incredibly skillful and dedicated staff at Frimley Park Hospital. As a result, I'm a huge supporter of the hospital, its staff, and indeed the Frimley Health NHS Foundation Trust, which was run so effectively for so many years by Sir Andrew Morris, and that pattern has been continued by his successors. Without question, I own the staff and the supporting organisation at the hospital, the quality of life I enjoy today. I fully participated in the November to January 24 public staff engagement exercise. But I'm sure I'm not the only councillor in this chamber who has attended dozens of public meetings over the course of the last couple of years on all sorts of subjects, ranging from, I don't know, sewerage in Watchet, through to car parks in Deep Cut, a sore subject, finally to local government review. Irrespective of what the subjects discussed were at these public meetings, all of us will have been asked two questions, I suggest. The first is, when is the hospital decision going to be made? And second, where is the new hospital going to be? And like the rest of you, I have had to stand back and admit that I have absolutely no idea to the answer of those two questions. Until a few weeks ago, when rumours started to circulate that the Hospital Authority had at last selected a preferred site. It subsequently emerged that, unlike many previous such rumours, those surrounding Macbeth, the rather darkly named code name for the new site, as I understand it, those are apparently credible. This situation is unfortunate for two reasons. Firstly, both parties, namely the hospital and the other, shall we say, unnamed party for the moment, could have denied the rumours once and for all. Neither have. After the length of the time it's taken for the Hospital Authority to apparently determine a preferred site, promising extensive public engagement and involvement along the way, it's a bit unfortunate that they could not have found a way of avoiding the large degree of uncertainty which now exists. The claimed owner of the site stated on the 26th of November, quote, that we have no further comment regarding this or any other suggestion for our land. They do not, interestingly, specify what this suggestion might be. And members will note that nor have I, rather bizarrely. Secondly, the alleged preferred site quite simply doesn't meet the criteria laid down by the Hospital Trust at the beginning of the process. Certainly on the plus side, it's within 5 miles of the existing site, which is good news, and it certainly offers a minimum of 20 acres of land, equally good news. But the alleged preferred site does not have excellent access. 1 minute? Thank you. Because the site has very poor public transport and road connections, and as already been mentioned, it's a greenfield site which appears not to meet the Trust's ecological and flooding criteria, nor does it have the massive scale of required utilities that a new hospital inevitably requires. Therefore, I ask you to support the motion before you now, and I'm going to end where I started, by emphasising the key role that Frimley Health Trust plays in our local community, and indeed the vital role it's played for me personally. I want the trust to flourish and I want the new hospital, if for no other reason than more than half of the existing building is rack-ridden. I want both of those things to succeed. I urge you to support tonight's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitcroft. I would like to invite members to discuss the motion and make any comments. Please can I ask that if you are not intending to move an amendment, you make this clear so I can invite another councillor to second this amendment. If an amendment is seconded, you should only debate the content of the amendment until a vote is taken on the proposed amendment. Members, could I now invite debate on the motion? Councillor Lee, Councillor Rines, Councillor Cope, Councillor Wheeler, Councillor Lee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not often at times like this that you're kind of slightly stuck for words. I think looking through the motion, the bit that leaps out to me is the bit that talks about the redevelopment of the existing site, and of course the MOD training centre next door, a beautiful Grade 2 listed building, surrounded by some very nice gardens, and then of course some sort of scrub type land around it. Thinking through, we visit hospitals mainly for two reasons: to say hello and to say goodbye. I had to go to a hospital to say goodbye to someone, and it was tough, but they had this beautiful little quiet garden that you could go to. How cool would it be for that building and that sort of beautiful set garden to be part of a place where you could go for that quiet time? So it's just the thought in terms of that piece of land next to it. Yes, of course, there's a Grade 2 listed building, but we're very clever at adapting buildings, and it could be quite an amazing space. Just my little thought.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to start as well by paying tribute to the incredible hard work that is done by all the staff at Frimley Park Hospital. The staff do an amazing thing there, often under incredibly difficult conditions, especially with the rat crisis that's facing this hospital. Frimley Park Hospital has been a mainstay of Frimley and the wider area for many decades since it was built. And I'm sure we've all been, or someone we all know has been treated there by the staff at Frimley Park. I feel like I should also potentially declare an interest, as it's where I was born. Whether that counts in my favour or not, I'll let others decide. Frankly, I am completely supportive of a new hospital, not only because of the rat crisis Frimley Park faces, but because after 50 years, it would make sense for a building built in the 1970s to the design standards of the 1970s would be coming to the end of its life. Not only in the bricks and mortar, but in their energy efficiency, its layout, its ability to provide the transformational healthcare that the NHS is looking to provide into the future. There is only so much time left in a building before it is essential to look at it again. So when the government announced the package of funding for the new hospital, I was happy. When the government announced it had been placed on the initial list of 40 new hospitals under the last government, I was happy. And when the current government confirmed it as one of the hospitals securing funding due to its RAC problem, I was also happy. However, I've not been happy with the process to date on site selection, a process that has been kept secretive and less than transparent. And if speculation is correct, a site has or is close to selection that would be inappropriate site based on their own site selection criteria, as Councillor Whitcroft set out. We've all heard the speculation about Pine Ridge and the Frimley Fuel Allotments land as a preferred site. If this site has been selected, I do not believe it would meet the initial site brief requirements or the criteria that's been set out by the Frimley Health Trust itself. Notably, and I'm quoting, the site should have excellent access, ideally within an urban location, within a 5-mile radius of the existing building, a minimum of 20 acres, and no significant constraints. Now, I admit the site could meet some of those, but it could in no way meet the need to have excellent access or be within an urban location. Pine Ridge Golf Course is located off Old Bisley Road, a relatively quiet, poorly lit residential B road. It connects to other B roads, Chobham Road and to the Maltway. The Maltway is a B road and is usually more pothole than road. Neither of those roads would be suitable for even the higher levels of traffic that would come with a brand new hospital. Patients, staff and ambulance visitors, all moving through high residential areas to come to this new hospital if it were to be at Pine Ridge. I also question how this site could be classified as an urban location. It is literally surrounded by land owned by the MOD, residential properties in Heatherside, and the Thames Basin Heath Special Protection Area. If that's urban, then I dread to think what Camberley Town Centre would be called. Pine Ridge represents one of, if not the last part of the Frimley Common, land that was put into the hands of a charity for the public good at around the same time the hospital was being built. And building here would take away one of the last pieces of green open land in the west of our borough, and it would represent the joining into one continuous conurbation of Heatherside and Deepcut. I won't go into the level of the development that Deepcut has had over the years because I am running out of time. However, over the past few days, I've been speaking with residents that after a Facebook post that I put out. I've had over 200 engagements with that post, and I've been having continuous emails. One of those residents I spoke with has had senior experience in these projects within the NHS. They said to me that they would expect the council to have been a key stakeholder in this project in terms of engagement. Now, I'm sure that the Trust would be able to point to something which will demonstrate stakeholder involvement. But it would have been better for the NHS to have been much more actively involved in engaging not just with Surrey Heath Borough Council, but all the councils and areas that are affected, and that would be beyond the joint committee. Residents I spoke with also raised concern about the impact on the local area, on roads, highways, the complete lack of real public transport connections, the impact on the SPA, and the loss of woodlands. There are a whole host of constraints and concerns, but I don't see how this site as a location for a new hospital could work without serious mitigation and investment, which I suspect there is no budget for. And I am coming to the end now, I will wrap up. I believe that we all want a new hospital, that we want that hospital to be a success, that staff and patients will have confidence in our hospital, but I don't think we just want a hospital dropped into a residential area because it might be the easiest land purchase process for the Trust. The decision of where the hospital goes will be built, and is an incredibly important decision, one that will, please forgive the hyperbole, will affect generations to come, not just those who are treated, but those who live near it. It is imperative that this decision is made correctly, and I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rise. Councillor Cope. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I want to say I welcome the opportunity for this council to discuss Frimley Park Hospital. I agree with what Councillor Rice has just said. This is a decision that's going to affect us for generations to come, affect our community, and we need to be talking about it. There's a lot of interest in it, and we've heard already some eloquent cases and some really powerful personal experiences as well this evening. But unfortunately, I can't support the motion. I welcome that it's come, but I just cannot support it, and I want to explain why. I've noticed a trend in the opinions that are being put forward on the hospital. I think Councillor Rice is an example of it. I think our MP Alistair Pinkerton is an example of it, and I think this motion is sort of an example of it as well. And it can all be boiled down to starting with 6 words. I support a new hospital, but. And the but is always something that is going to put a hurdle between people living in Surrey Heath and achieving a new hospital. It is going to delay things. My position is a simple 5 words. I support a new hospital. No ifs, no buts. And I want to see it delivered as quickly as possible, because that is going to mean that people in our communities have better healthcare experiences sooner. Let's get on with it. Of course, we should be commenting on the decisions around process and sites, but this has been going on for a couple of years already, and Councillor Whitcroft already mentioned the time frames that this has been taking. And this motion calls for a reassessment of a phased rebuild on the current site. Now, that has been looked at previously. It's been looked at repeatedly, and it's been deemed by the Trust not to be a viable proposal. I can't see why going back and asking them to look at it again is going to come back with anything else. Now, look, I'm not an expert in building hospitals. The people that are the ones that are looking at the sites and making the decisions and recommendations. But I think there are a few fairly apparent reasons why a phased rebuild is not the correct solution. The first one is likely cost. In any project, a phased rebuild on site that on a site that is continuing to operate, no less, is going to be more costly. And any more money you spend on a more expensive site, a more expensive project, is money that can't then be spent on improving patient outcomes. The second is patient experience, and we heard Councillor Lee there speak very movingly about his experience as a visitor to the hospital. And we all know what a nightmare that roundabout by the hospital currently can be. Think about what adding construction traffic is going to do to that. Not to mention the experience of you and your loved ones having to use a site and rely on a hospital, which is also a building site. For me, that is not appealing at all. And the third one is space. This is not a like-for-like replacement. Modern hospitals have a number of features which improve patient experiences, but they also take up a larger geographic footprint. A greater number of ensuite rooms is a very good example of this. It's going to take more space. Even with the adjacent land, as I say, I'm not an expert, but it doesn't seem to me that it's viable, and the Trust doesn't seem to think it's viable, and I can't see any reason why us asking them to look again is going to come to a different solution. I think we do have to be honest with people. Building a new hospital is going to cause some inconvenience. Now, I know we've mentioned the Pine Ridge site today. I've seen a few sites mentioned before, one of which very close to my house. It would be very inconvenient to me if they decided to build a hospital there because I'd be stuck in traffic a lot. But that can't be the sole consideration. We need to build infrastructure. We are terrible in this country at building infrastructure. And I just fear if we continue to pass motions like this, continue to push it back, say, no, we don't want it like that, no, we don't want it like this, you end up with a situation where either it never happens or it happens 10 years, 15 years' time rather than 5 years' time. That would be a really bad experience for people in Surrey Heath. We cannot build this without inconvenience, I'm afraid. So I would urge the Council to reject this motion, though noting that it's been eloquently put and it's really good that we are discussing it. We need to send a strong message that we support a new hospital for people in Surrey Heath. There should be no ifs, there should be no buts, there can be no caveats. Let's not put more hurdles in the way, and let's give our local healthcare workers the infrastructure they need to deliver the best possible care and to deliver the best possible service to local people. For Pete's sake, let's get on with it.
Thank you, Councillor Cope. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you. And for the record, I think it's the first time that I've agreed with Councillor Cope in the last 2 years, which is quite something. So I appreciate the concerns of residents that are adjacent to this location. But I'd like to bring up a couple of points. We talk about the Old Bisley Road. Deep Cut Ridge Road and the Maltway are roads that have experienced and are going through the process of experiencing improvements from the Deep Cut development site. And we have to bear in mind that there is a large development in Deep Cut, and that's where a great number of our residents will be and are already residing. And this location, this potential location, and we have no idea whether it is the location or not, would seem to be a sensible place to put it to serve the residents of Surrey Heath. I also look at point B of the motion, which says to urgently and earnestly relook at the phased redevelopments and potentially including expansion to the adjacent public estate. As Councillor Cope has said, that's been looked at, and it's been looked at several times, and it isn't suitable. We have to bear in mind that if we want to be able to continue to care for our residents and for our residents not to have a 2-year waiting list for their hip replacement, Frimley Park Hospital has to be redeveloped, and it has to be redeveloped as soon as possible. My understanding is that they have looked at more than 20 sites. My understanding is also that they've had several meetings with, if not Nick Stevens, certainly although I'm pretty sure that Mr. Stevens has had meetings with them, but also the previous chief executive of the council. So they have been engaging and they have been collaborative in looking at this. We have to make sure that we get the best results for our residents, and that's all residents, not some residents. And on that basis, unfortunately, I am not able to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Now, Councillor Garrett, and then Yeah, Councillor Rowlands.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to begin by recognising, as I believe everyone in the Chamber does, the outstanding work of the staff of Frimley Park Hospital. Their commitment to patients and to our community is exceptional. I can speak from personal experience this week as my own father was taken to A&E and is being cared for as we sit in this chamber discussing it now. The service he's received in the last few days has been exemplary, especially in light of the news we have seen in the last few days about a rising flu, and also taking consideration that their entire Wi-Fi dropped out for most of yesterday. It is a reminder that this debate is not theoretical, it affects real family, including my own. Turning to the motion, I have a number of concerns. The first is that everything requested in section 3 of the motion is something that the administration can already do. Writing to ministers, raising issues with the trust and advocating for residents does not require a motion. If urgency is the aim, procedure should not be used to place of an action. Second, we must be honest with ourselves about the work already undertaken. The National Hospitals Programme has completed a full options review. This included land availability, transport access, utilities, clinical safety and the ability to keep services running throughout the construction. Transport access is a mandatory requirement for any shortlisted site. It is not something the Trust might forget. It is baked into the process. We should also consider the structured scrutiny that has already taken place locally. The the Joint Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee, is a statutory joint committee of Surrey, Hampshire, Bracknell Forest Councils. It exists to examine NHS proposals for the scale. According to the published minutes, especially those from February, many of the issues raised in this motion were already discussed in public session. They included the criteria the Trust is applying, the challenges presented by RAC and the early review of potential sites. More detailed information about individual sites was handled in part 2, as in normal for commercial sensitive matters. The idea that these questions have gone unasked and or unexamined simply does not reflect the documented evidence. This brings me to the further point. The councillor bringing this motion is himself appointed by Surrey Heath to represent the council, including the Governor's Council and the Regional Health Committee. They are precisely the forums where concerns of this nature should be raised. We appoint councillors so they can represent the borough and challenge where needed. It is therefore reasonable to ask if these issues highlighted tonight have been raised throughout those established channels, especially when those meetings have direct oversight of the Trust's strategy and long-term planning. The motion also asks for a renewed look at phased redevelopment on the existing site. I understand the appeal of the idea. Many residents prefer the hospital remain exactly where it is. However, the reality is that you cannot close Frimley Park Hospital while a new one is being built elsewhere. Equally, it is incredibly difficult to maintain a safe acute hospital while major demolition and rebuilding takes place around it. The national review of the GHOSC papers both highlight the RAP mitigation combined with a long-term construction on a constrained site would extend risk, extend disruption and delay the delivery of safe modern facilities for years. Delay is not neutral, delay has consequences. On the suggestion of expanding into adjacent government-owned land, the facts are very clear. The Trust has looked at this option. The land is not large enough for a modern acute hospital and includes a listed building. It is simply not feasible, no matter how appealing it might sound in theory. Finally, the request to publish site selection criteria and scores may appear to improve transparency, but this information is commercially sensitive. It includes valuations, procurement strategy and risk assessments. No major NHS rebuild in the country has been asked to release this level of internal scoring. Doing so would weaken the Trust negotiation position and could ultimately cost the public purse. We all want the same outcome. We want the right hospital, in the right place, delivered as safely and quickly as possible. But we must not pass motions that duplicate existing work, create delay, or undermine the Trust's ability to deliver a modern hospital within Surrey Heath. I believe debating this further and putting more delays in place could be detrimental to the plans and, in fact, delays things further. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gowan. Councillor Rowlands.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's been eloquently put by the last speaker and the previous speaker before that. The situation is that some of the speakers speaking in favour of the motion are indicating that all the pros and cons of the issue were not fully discussed by the board. They were endlessly discussed, and a whole range of alternatives were seriously looked at. And it was only after that process, a rigorous examination of all the alternatives, that the present site was agreed to. So it's not as though they immediately sited on the present area that they went for. It was only after the result of an extensive investigation of alternative sites. So I think that point should be made quite clearly. And I think as the two other speakers said, it's been extensively and exhaustively looked at by a number of experts. The group have agonised over the process, and I think it's wrong to actually produce this at the last moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. Councillor Ashbury, Councillor Rice, you have already spoken.
Under the Constitution, Part 4, Section 14.12, I would like to exercise a right of personal explanation.
Okay. Councillor Ashbury first, and then Councillor Rice. Councillor Ashbury.
Thank you, Mayor.
And then Quinn.
I hadn't planned to speak this evening, so you'll forgive me, I have no prepared notes, but there's a couple of concerns that I have following the debate. One, there's a couple of people now, Councillor Cope and Councillor Rowlands, have given an indication that they know that the Trust has exhaustively looked at and discounted the land adjacent to them. I don't know how they know that information. Maybe because of Councillor Rowland's declaration earlier that he is a trustee on Frimley Fuel Allotments, and maybe Councillor Cope, who made the declaration at External Partnerships last year that he has given advice to Frimley Fuel Allotments. But I have not seen any evidence that it has been exhaustively discussed. I have not seen that it has been discounted. I would like, if that information is in the public domain, for it to be shared, if possible. Thank you.
Point of order, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury.
Point of order. Councillor Cope did declare an interest of giving legal advice to Frimley Fuel Allotments on the 31st of July 2024. It's in the minutes. Councillor Ashbury is correct. I think we probably want to give him a right of reply to see if he needs to declare an interest.
Ms Boateng will just advise us on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. That sounds like a non-pecuniary interest. I haven't seen the minute, but if that's the case, then that would be a non-pecuniary interest to be declared.
Yeah, point of order. I mean, look, I declared an interest at that meeting because at that time I'd given them advice on a telecommunications mast that's completely irrelevant to anything we'll be discussing in this meeting. If the monitoring officer feels that I should declare an interest that I previously worked for them, then I'm happy to declare that interest, but it's got absolutely no bearing on what we're discussing.
Thank you, Councillor Cope.
We haven't actually had clarification from Councillor Cope whether it was pecuniary or non-pecuniary. I think that would be helpful because he has made some statements this evening in favour of one particular position, and we need to understand the exact relationship between himself and the organisation which he seemed to be supporting. Thank you.
Shall I? Perhaps it'd be helpful if I just gave a little bit more advice about the need to declare interests. As I said at the beginning, so there are two types of interest to be declared. Pecuniary, which is if there's a financial interest that the member has in the matter under discussion, then they're required to declare that interest and not participate in any way in the discussion and excuse themselves from the meeting and leave the room. If it's a non-pecuniary interest, so that is by virtue of being on a board nominated by the council or a trustee of an organisation, then I would say that that's a non-pecuniary interest, which should be declared, and you can then still participate and vote on a matter. So in relation to the interest that you've mentioned, Councillor Cope, so that was that you gave legal advice on a telecommunications mast. Is that right? Well, that doesn't, in my view, it's something that's, if it's to be declared, it will be a non-pecuniary interest to be declared, in my view. The other thing I should mention about non-pecuniary interest is there may be instances where you have an interest which is non-pecuniary, which should be declared, and ordinarily you could still participate, but it's a matter for you as a members whether you think that your interest is so close or linked to the matter under discussion that you are unable to give a fair and balanced consideration of the matter. So that's a matter of judgment for the member to consider for themselves and then take that decision on based on that advice. Hope that helps. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate your allowing this. I just want to give a personal explanation, as Councillor Cope in his contributions seemed to misunderstand my contribution earlier. I am not saying I want the hospital, but I've actually said I want the hospital full stop. What I'm saying is that I would want the trust to have been clearer and more open about their site selection criteria. So I think there's been a misconstruing in Councillor Cope's contributions of my position of that I want to put obstacles in the way of the building of a new hospital. I want a new hospital. I want it as quickly as possible, as we all do. But there has to be, and I will say but there has to be a clearer and openness from the trust about how they are selecting sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I no longer need to speak, so that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick points. First of all, I was surprised to hear that the board has approved this as an option, Councillor Rowlands. So that's new news to me. So appreciate that. And it was good to know from Councillor Garrett and Councillor Cope that the site next door had been extensively looked at and ruled out. They seem to have information that's not in the public domain. Specifically, as Councillor Garrett commented, that most of that detail was in part 2 of those meetings. So one can only imagine where that came from, but those are the facts. I think it might be worthy of, for members and members of the public to know what the primary nature of discussions between this council and the relevant bodies is, and perhaps the officers could comment on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Anybody else? Councillor O'Malley, would you like to exercise your right to reply?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you to all the members who have spoken tonight, those for and against. Some of the points raised are new to me. I've not been aware of them, and they don't appear to be in the public domain. That being said, what we've heard in this debate isn't just opinion. It's for the voice of the community that cares deeply about its hospital and its staff and its future. The motion is, at its heart, about people, about the thousands of residents who have walked through the doors at Frimley Park in moments of fear, hope or relief. About the staff who hold this hospital together with their skill, their compassion and sheer commitment. And about the generations yet to come who rely on the decisions being shaped right now. And about we're not here to instruct the foundation. We're not here to prejudice any outcome. We're here to honour what this hospital means to our community, to ensure that transparency, accessibility and continuity remain at the core of every decision of every option, of every plan. Frinley Park is not just a building, it is woven into the story of Surrey Heath. It has been there for our families in their darkest hours and their brightest moments. And as it faces the most significant redevelopment in its history, our duty is to stand firmly with the people we represent and to ensure their voices are heard clearly and respectfully. And that is what this motion does. It carries the community's hope, its concerns, and its pride. And I am grateful to members for recognising that tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Omani. I would like to now move to the vote on the proposal. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tedder, please.
Point of order. We have come to the right of reply from the proposer. The debate is finished.
It was just a matter of raising something that's actually on the website that the site was discussed, and it's in the minutes. But thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Tedder. Okay, I would.
Microphone.
Thank you. Councillor Hode would like to request a named vote, a recorded vote. Councillor
Mayor, I
Flanagan.
would also like to request a recorded vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ashbury and Councillor Young-Parrott. Yeah. Is this all for? Okay. Do we need all for recorded vote?
I'd like to request for a named vote as well. Thank you.
We'll read out your names and you will need to indicate whether you are voting in favour or against the motion or abstaining.
Councillor Alan Ashbury.
For.
Councillor Louise Ashbury.
For.
Councillor Cliff Betton.
Abstain.
Councillor Johnny Cope.
Against.
Councillor Kel Farnan-Cook.
For.
Councillor Lisa Farnan-Cook.
For.
Councillor Sean Garrett.
Against.
Councillor Julie Howd.
For.
Councillor Dave Howe.
For.
Councillor Nimal Kang.
For.
Councillor Sabi Kang. For. Councillor Rob Lee.
For.
Councillor Sean MacDonald.
For.
Councillor Leanne McIntyre.
For.
Councillor Jacques Olmo.
For.
Councillor David O'Mahony.
For.
Councillor Jonathan Quinn.
Against.
Councillor Bob Rakes.
For.
Councillor Murray Rowlands.
Against.
Councillor Morgan Rise.
For.
Councillor John Skipper.
For.
Councillor Pat Tedder. Councillor Kevin Thompson.
For.
Councillor Ying Tong Perrott.
For.
Councillor Victoria Wheeler.
Against.
Councillor David Whitcroft.
For.
Councillor Valerie White.
Against.
Councillor Richard Wilson.
For.
Members, I declare the vote carried. 24, 7 against and 1 abstain. Motion 2. I would like to ask Councillor Rob Lee to move the motion in the agenda. Councillor Lee, I will invite you to speak on the motion once it has been seconded.
Thank you. Happy to move.
I would like to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Noel Kane. Councillor Lee, would you like to speak on your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, councillors, members of the public. Do forgive me today. In a slightly unusual turn of events, I've decided to try and read from prepared notes and a speech. It's something that, as I'm sure many of you know, is a little bit unusual for me. But I'm told it's the done thing when you're faced with pressures of potential legal threats. The Frimley fuel allotments was once public land. It was entrusted to the fuel allotments as guardians back probably before the time Charles Dickens was born, actually, and certainly before Queen Victoria came to the throne. Quite a long time ago, really, if you can think about that, back when it was Frimley Common. In fact, as Morgan Rise, I think, eloquently put in a recent post, it's the very last piece of Frimley Common that's left, which is a thing to ponder on. So what are fuel allotments? Well, it's a place where the poor could go and gather fuel, firewood, basically. Nothing more complex than that. They could go gathering it, obviously, on a not just on a cold and frosty morning. And it was a place for providing sustainable fuel, like a green lung to the ecosystem. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the public land was entrusted to the Fuel Allotments Charity by our predecessor council, the Frimley and Camberley Urban District Council. Turning to the fuel allotments itself, I kind of feel that this is an organisation that's lost its way from its founding principles. They're supposed to be the custodians of the final piece of the once great Frimley Common. Interestingly, the subject of a hunt in a 17th century portrait at the moment, where they're trying to work out whereabouts on Frimley Common that portrait was painted, and whether it is by the particular artist they think it is. Turning to recent announcements from the Frimley fuel allotments, I think there's a couple of things that come up. So if I read to you briefly, during recent years, we're aware there's been much speculation regarding future development options of our land. The board has a long-standing position of neither confirming or denying any suggestion that has been made in the past, nor be made in the future. Therefore, we have no further comment regarding this or any other suggestion for our land. Which I find slightly bizarre, because if you read published council documents, they've clearly made public comment. And we've heard from Councillor Ashbury this evening in a response to a follow-up question from the rather diligent Heatherside Ward Residents Association about that. So I'm slightly perplexed. As a trustee, I didn't sign off or approve that quote. I don't know how many trustees did, but I certainly didn't. And I'm not quite sure it's something that I would agree with, because it's kind of, when I go back to losing their way, it's not conducive with what's already in the public domain. And I take slight issue, I think, with the piece around the... I was trying to think, I have to get my words correct because I'm worried I don't want to get sued, you see. Let me pause and come back to that. My feeling was that most members of the public I speak to is that this organisation is an organisation that's forgotten its founding principles. If indeed the rumoured sale for development of of an extensive hospital. And let's be honest, from what Councillor Cope was saying, it would be an extensive hospital is born true. I'd urge the trustees to consider their role as good stewards of the land and whether they're subrogating their responsibility. Losing the final piece of Frimley Common could easily be seen by local residents throughout Surrey Heath as a betrayal. I think the trustees should think carefully if they want their hands dipped in the ink of that betrayal, given that they live within this community and many of them have been nominated by the churches within our community to serve on that trust.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Kang, would you like to speak on the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. When I heard of this rumour spreading like wildfire, my first thought, this cannot be true. I hope it's still unconfirmed speculation. Although it is a fact that Surrey Heath is well overdue for a new hospital, as a result of underinvestment and delays by the previous central government. Hospitals were promised, but none were built, none were delivered. This current government promotes knee-jerk solutions. So, it takes me back. So, this unconfirmed speculation of a new hospital site is not helpful and alarming, causing anxiety to local residents of Heatherside, Parkside, Deep Cut and Frimley residents. And if I hear that, what's my thought? Will this push house prices down where I live? Absolute nonsense destroying buildings or putting buildings on prime green land with lush trees. This will have a drastic impact on the biodiversity. Look at these posters that these kind ladies have, lovely species. We can't lose those. We need to keep Surrey Heath green. So we love Surrey Heath. We like to go for walks. So where will we walk? Where will we do our running, our cycling? And this is a big if. If he was proposed, think about the day and night noise, air pollution, traffic congestion around the narrow road network leading to this site. Where will local residents park with antisocial parking? And this is, seen throughout, So this site has no public transport nearby. So everyone will be using their car to and fro. We can't really think about that. So local residents are facing significant congestion already outside the existing hospital. And the proposed site would cause gridlock with 6 local schools on key access roads. Residents have fought, from what I say 7 years or more, fought for traffic calming measures around schools. And such measures have been installed along key access roads. These would have to be removed to permit ambulances to enter and leave the speculated hospital site at pace. The overwhelming bells that are ringing is that the speculated site is deeply flawed. Local residents encourage the Hospital Trust, with the final decision maker, the Secretary of State, to make use of brownfield sites rather than precious green space. Consider access to public road and road infrastructure. Consider the impact of noise 24/7 due to a helipad, ambulances and traffic. And most importantly, consider sites which do not result in the negative health impacts for the residents. So hospitals are there to alleviate pain and suffering, not to initiate anxiety, stress and grief in their local patients. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kang. I would like to invite members to discuss this motion and make any comments. As before, please can I ask that if you are intending to move an amendment, you make this clear so I can invite another councillor to second this amendment. So, Councillor Garrett. Then Councillor Quinn, then Councillor, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to speak on the motion that we have before us this evening. Transparency matters, and any charity entrusted with land or community funds must operate openly and accountably. But having reviewed the Frimley Fuel Allotments Constitution and their most recent accounts, I'm concerned that the motion suggests there are problems without providing any evidence. The governance structure is intentionally broad. 4 trustees are appointed by this council, 4 come from local churches, the remaining 8 are co-opted from their skills and local knowledge. This is balanced, community-rooted board, and our appointed councillors make up a quarter of it. If genuine concerns existed, our representatives already have an established route to raise them. I would be interested to know whether any of the other councillors' appointed trustees share the concerns of Councillor Lee. Commercial sensitivity also needs context. Any organisation dealing with land development matters, including this council, must protect confidential information. This is normal practice. Any evidence or secrecy or wrongdoing. The charity's constitution already requires declarations of interest, withdrawal from conflicted decisions, proper minutes and its submission of annual accounts to the Charity Commission. The charity has complied with all these from what I can see. What concerns me further is the motion implies wrongdoing but offers no allegation and identifies no irregularity. It casts broad suspicion over a long-standing local charity and over trustees who included respected community figures and councillors. That is a serious step to take without evidence, and reputational harm caused by speculation is very difficult to undo. We also do not know whether any land transaction or development will take place. There is no confirmed proposal, yet the motion treats speculation as fact and directs scrutiny at volunteers who have done nothing wrong. If we want to understand the positive impact this charity has done, the accounts show clearly around £125,000 in grants were awarded last year to 18 named groups, and have already declared an interest in at least 3 of the groups that have been supported. They support vulnerable residents across Surrey Heath. I declare an interest. The motion also calls for a whistleblowing policy. The charity has 1 part-time member of staff. Any concerns would be raised through the trustees themselves, including our own representatives. If such policy was generally needed, it could have been raised as a trustee meeting. I do not understand why this chamber is being asked to intervene when no such request has come through normal governance channels. I am also concerned by the suggestion to refer this matter to External Partnerships Select Committee, when both the chair and vice chair of that committee are trustees of the charity. In any governance setting, that would be recognised as a conflict of interest. The councillor bringing the motion is also vice chair of that committee. Trusts cannot simultaneously lead scrutiny on a charity they help govern. I would welcome the monitoring officer's view on this. Even if the chair or treasurer of the charity were invited to speak, they would still be bound by charity law. They cannot disclose commercially sensitive or confidential information in this public meeting, and expecting to do so risks misleading the public. If any trustees, including our own councillors, appointees, believe the genuine governance failures existed, the proper route is the Charity Commission. That is the independent regulator with the authority to act. Bringing speculative concerns here instead risks politicising a respected community charity. Encouraging the residents to contact trustees directly also places unnecessary pressure on volunteers who are already acting in good faith. Scrutiny should always be fair, proportional and evidence-based. This motion does not meet that standard. For these reasons, I cannot support it, and subject to support from colleagues, I would like a named vote, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Quinn.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I have to say I completely really agree with the last speaker. When I saw this motion, I was a bit confused about what it was talking about. I feel like there's some information that I don't know that's behind this motion, and therefore I can't really understand it, because it seems to be about a third-party charity, and we seem to be asking them to report to us and give us information. But of course, as the previous speaker said, the Charity Commission's there. So if Councillor Lee believes that this organisation has breached its constitution and is not operating correctly, I'd suggest he drafts a letter to the appropriate body and that they deal with this, because we can't insist that they come to our committee meetings. We can't insist that they hand over what could potentially be confidential information. And I just ask, have we adopted a softer approach? So, for example, have we invited the organisation to come and appear before external partnerships before we pass a motion that might give some aspersions as to their behaviour? And also this kind of separate point, this kind of really should have been raised as a point of order, I guess. But after my colleague, Councillor Rowland, spoke, I think there was some reading into what he said about something being confirmed. As far as I'm concerned, he didn't mention any sites or anything in his speech specifically. So I wouldn't read into anything that Councillor Rowland said beyond the exact words of his speech. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn. Councillor Tedder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't reiterate what has just been said by my colleagues. I find this quite offensive towards Frimley fuel allotments, and I've got nothing to do with them. But I don't think it's in our remit that we can actually, as Councillor Quinn said, demand that they come. This is an independent charity, and I think in 2011 there was a directive from the Charities Commission telling councils to keep their nose out and let charities get on with themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tedder. Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm sure other people in the chamber will be pleased to say that a lot of what I was going to say has already been said, and therefore I won't repeat it, other than to agree with it. I would actually also like to make the point that as 4 people in this chamber sit as trustees, my understanding is that they can call a meeting of trustees to discuss and debate a matter. Maybe they would like to comment on whether or not they've tried to do that, and the remaining trustees refused to meet. But my understanding is that that is normally a first step. The other thing that I would like to talk about is that we have, at the moment, albeit somewhat precarious, a planning process that includes any development that within the SPA or common land will need to have very special circumstances. It will deal with a number of issues that were raised by Councillor Nirmal Kang in relation to parking, in relation to infrastructure, in relation to highways, and in relation to access. Very recently at planning, we were told that a new estate would have the benefit of a dial-a-ride, or whatever, it's a digital on-demand service, and that was a jolly good reason for allowing it to go ahead. Irrespective of how we feel about planning legislation, that planning legislation is there for all of us to access, and for all of us within the planning committee to comment upon, and for any member that is a representative of residents in that area to come and talk and discuss on behalf of their residents. So charities don't answer to us. There is a planning process that this application will need to go through, irrespective of where the site was. And there's also a governance process internally whereby the trust will engage further with residents and to hear their concerns, as they already have done. On their website, they say that they've looked at 17 sites in detail. AI tells me 20, the Trust website tells me 17, and within that website it also said that they look very closely at doing further development on and adjacent to the existing site, and that was dismissed. I'm really surprised that the Frimley members that are here are not standing up and really welcoming an alternative site to ease the congestion, which is absolutely horrendous around Frimley Park Hospital. And for those of us that have tried to get a relative there without the use of an ambulance very, very quickly, My mother lives, I would say, less than a mile from the hospital. It's taken me over 40 minutes before now. So the sooner this is done, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wheeler. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this motion because there is a lack of transparency, which is obviously worrying for residents. Frimley Fuel Allotments is entrusted to protect and maintain vital public green space. Its finances are healthy, and yet we hear it plans to sell up. And in fact, this is no longer a rumour since it's been confirmed tonight in public by Councillor Rowlands, who is a trustee. Does this create a precedent for other trusts in the borough? For example, would the Windlesham Field of Remembrance or Chobham Recreation Ground trusts feel tempted or obliged to follow suit and sell their valuable and vital land? The Charity Commission website lists the chair of the Frimley Fuel Allotments as Alan McLafferty. When this council was under Conservative administration until 2023, then Councillor McLafferty was the leader. He was one of 3 signatories in 2016 which took the disastrous rushed decision to purchase the House of Fraser building. They unconstitutionally misused the urgent action process to blow £20 million of the public's money on this with zero scrutiny. His signature cost the public £20 million. That money has gone up in smoke. The building is worthless, costing the council continually to keep it safe. This, along with massively overpaying for the Camberley Mall, has left this council staring into a financial abyss.
Sorry, Councillor Wilson.
Only being
Can I just say that it's irrelevant mentioning the House of Fraser building. But thank you. Would you like to carry on?
Thank you, Mayor. This, along with massively overpaying for the Camberley Mall, has left this council staring into a financial abyss.
I think that's also probably completely irrelevant to this point.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson referred to Councillor Rowlands apparently confirming something to do with Frimley fuel allotments, I assume, because of this motion that's been discussed. I'm wondering if Councillor Wilson could please clarify when exactly Councillor Rowlands confirmed that a decision had been made concerning Frimley fuel allotments, because I'm not able to find that in the YouTube video of this meeting. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just point out, I will prove the relevance of what I've been saying in about 20 seconds, if you'll permit me.
Can you just make a point of clarification on Councillor Quinn's? Yeah. Sorry. Would you like to continue, Councillor Wilson? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said, this, along with massively overpaying for the Camberley Mall, has left this council staring into a financial abyss. Only by being abolished can the council avoid effective bankruptcy due to the Conservatives' reckless property speculation. Many of the surviving documents were only made public when we took over the council in 2023. Councillor McLafferty's Conservative administration hadn't produced accounts for about 4 years, and they didn't even know how much interest the council was paying on its huge debts they had run up. The current situation in Frimley fuel allotments...
Councillor Wilson, these points aren't relevant to this topic, but thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not returning to them for the rest of my speech, which has got about another 30 seconds left.
Right, thank you. Would you like to finish? Thank you.
Thank you. The current situation in Frimley fuel allotments has worrying echoes of this. The charity is not being open with the public. They seem to be preparing for a huge real estate transaction with minimal professional assistance and no public consultation. They only spent £2,700 on legal advice in the last year that information is available for. Is Mr McLafferty relying on his individual innate skill in handling large real estate transactions? Given his past record, I sincerely hope not.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Lee will answer these questions in his summing up. I support this motion and urge the Council, on behalf of the public, to apply much-needed scrutiny to these plans.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Can I...
No.
We're now slagging off someone that's not even in the chamber to stand up for themselves, and we're also suggesting within Councillor Wilson's statement that accounts haven't been done by the previous administration yet. The accounts for the charity are on the Charity Commission site for the last 4 or 5 years, so all of that is there. I think Councillor McLafferty's only been chair for the last 2 or 3 years. Previous to that was Simon, I can't remember his surname, so that is all in the public domain. I just conscious that we're slagging off someone that is unable to stand up for themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett.
The word slag off, but I couldn't think of something
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to respond something to, firstly, I'm impressed by Councillor Wheeler's sudden ability and acceptance of the planning system to resolve all of the mitigations that will likely come forward from this site. So I'm very pleased to see her conversion. That's not been my experience with her on planning committees. She generally raises very, very good concerns. I do just want to make the point as well, is that we've heard from a number of speakers this evening that this motion is apparently demanding that the Frimley fuel allotment appears before the External Partnership Select Committee. And I just want to refer members to point 3 of the motion, point 3A, to ask the FFA Chair and Treasurer to come before the Council's External Partnership Select Committee as a matter of urgency to explain following on. I'm not sure how they respond to questions, but it's generally not a demand. This motion is asking for them to attend the committee, directly addressing the point of Councillor Quinn's of, have they actually been asked? This motion is requiring that they get asked, not a demand. I think councillors should be a bit more aware of the words they use and the hyperbole, which I apologise for using in my earlier speech. I would recommend councillors think on that before they speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rise. Any further? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, I refer you again to my declaration of interest at the start of today's meeting. I also want to note up front the positive impact Frimley Fuel Allotments Grants has across our community, directly with residents and through other charitable organisations, as Councillor Garrett did. It plays an important part within the fabric of our Surrey Heath community, particularly with those most in need. Members, as you will appreciate, due to my role as leader of the council, I've been involved in several strategic conversations concerning the rebuild of Frimley Park Hospital and potential sites. Internally, where the public land historically gifted to Frimley Fuel Allotments at Pine Ridge was hotly tipped informally by many, and externally with Hospital Trust Board members periodically from spring 2024, where I repeatedly advocated for a split site solution, as did our MP, Dr. Al Pinkerton, publicly, to include substantial community care in some of our town centre regeneration sites, very much in line with the NHS 10-year plan that then followed. Whilst I am not subject to the scope of any non-disclosure agreement, the nature of the discussions with the Trust are sensitive, which I am mindful of, including any detailed information shared with myself and the Chief Executive. However, equally, I am not elected to represent the Trust, nor Frimley Fuel Allotments, but the residents of Lightwater, and through my current role, lead this council on behalf of all the borough residents. I will aim to balance these competing pressures in all my measured statements. What I can say is I first became aware of the potential plan for the Pine Ridge site within their current portfolio of options under consideration in summer 2025. And I wrote in detail to the Trust with my severe reservations on the suitability of the proposal, a copy of which is in my hand, redacted. I then repeated that on the 19th of September 2025, and on both of these I reserved the right to put redacted into the public domain at a later date, which I have not yet done. I won't repeat the points made that others have made on the potential catastrophe such a relocation would cause to so many Surrey Heath residents by creating multiple daily gridlocks, eroding residents' well-being in construction and operation, increasing risks to children's safety, lengthening blue light times to A&E, increasing risks to children's safety, sorry, that's a repeat, I apologise, and destroying of our natural environment. Just to clarify, it is not the action of this council that has led to any delay of this project, not one single day. It is the Trust, and it is only the Trust, and the two governments, one Conservative and one Labour. As well as these practical concerns, I have also raised with the Trust Board informally my deep reservations on the optics of how any potential purchase by the NHS and potential sale by Frimley Fuel Allotments of a major publicly gifted green space would look to residents, given the NHS strategy to improve physical and mental health through mobility. Having lived in the corporate world, I've spent a lot of time focused over the years, not just on issues of compliance, but also questions of ethics. In layperson's terms, does something feel, look and smell right? A reasonable person might say the potentially proposed deal doesn't sit well on either count. One example would be the chair of the Surrey Heath-based charitable organisation that is a regular recipient of Frimley Fuel Allotment grants is also the chair of the relevant county and unitary-led Joint Health and Oversight Committee that has a statutory role overseeing the hospital rebuild plan. How long potentially some Frimley Fuel Allotment trustees in key positions, their advisors and other associates have been working on positioning the Pine Ridge site with any developers is unclear from the annual trustee reports. However, the recent rumour of the hospital relocation is just one example, the other being executive housing that residents with long memories will remember. In its 2024 report and financial statement signed on the 23rd of July 2025 by the Chair, Frimley Fuel Allotments makes no reference to any future focus on Pine Ridge development or its exploration of options with any third parties. It is also notable that a committee was formed to explore future options for the use of the charity's funds, the same as 2023. However, there is no comment on any other committee in place, which again a reasonable person would expect if development is planned. The valuation placed on the land of 2.9 million at November 2024 has apparently not changed materially since then by July 2025, which would appear subject to a reasonable person's challenge. Should third-party offers be on the table and any alternative use valuations exist at the time from their advisors or associates? If the charity is exploring options and has organised around this objective, and has alternative valuations or offers available, then these omissions appear contrary to the transparency reporting requirements of the relevant charity statement of recommended practice. The 2024 report also states that no grant applications fulfilling the charity's guidelines were rejected on grounds of unaffordability, which applies along with the audited financial statements provided that the charity is in a robust financial position to keep pace with beneficiary demand. Whilst the report acknowledges the intention to allow continued enjoyment of the facility by the local community and works take place so it can remain open safely for public enjoyment, it does, however, warrantingly state that the charity will continue to ensure it fulfills its obligation to get best return from the land. Best return from the land is not stated as a charitable objective, nor is there any legal obligation to obtain it, just that the funds raised and professionally overseen should be directed towards the beneficiaries in scope. Whilst income from the golf lease arrangement with Crown Golf is acknowledged as a key risk in the accounts, income has steadily risen each year post-COVID. Given closures of many public pay-and-play courses nationally and the inaccessibility of private courses to many, the supply side is tightening. Therefore, player demand for pay and play would reasonably be forecast to be favourable into the long term, supporting the charity's health. By potentially considering any large development, it feels like the charity may have forgotten its long and rich history, its deep community roots based on a special place of nature that value for its geographically ring-fenced beneficiaries is more than just maximising a financial return. It can include aesthetic and social value benefits through the charity's actions on site. Overall, this is a charity that is financially robust and strategic change is not needed. Residents and members will remember the controversial deal that the former House of Fraser building in 2016 was signed off by the current chair of Frimley Fuel Allotments.
Councillor MacDonald, we're over time with this.
Yep.
Could you?
Yep. Sorry, Mayor, can I propose that we suspend standing orders to allow Councillor MacDonald to finish? Thank you.
Can I just clarify that we are going to stick to relevant information during this? Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll be probably less than a minute. Yeah, thank you. It is relevant because it is the same people involved. So, let me just regroup for a second. Residents and members will remember the controversial deal for the former House of Fraser building in 2016 was signed off by the current chair of Frimley Fuel Allotments.
Sorry, Councillor, we've got another point of order here. Thank you, Councillor.
Madam Mayor, I think you've already just said when Councillor Wilson was speaking that that was not relevant to this motion.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Thank you. Proceed.
Sorry, are we saying it's not the same person, Mayor? I'm confused.
Okay, I'm just going to ask for some clarification here with Ms Wotan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, reference to, as you were about to make reference to there, that's not relevant. We've already pulled up one councillor for the same matter, so it would be unreasonable for us to allow you to do the same.
Point of order. Can I just ask for clarification? The motion is very clear in its request of the ask of the chair and the treasurer of the Frimley Fuel Allotments charity to attend the External Partnerships Select Committee to explain various aspects. Their past work in any form would be relevant to how they operate their duties as chair and treasurer of that charity. So I would require clarity from the monitoring officer of why not even discussing the person is irrelevant to the discussion.
Rise.
No, I require an answer before.
Rise.
My point of order was not relevant to the chair of
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, I have made a point of order. Councillor Gow doesn't then get to speak onto my point of order. I made a point of order, Madam Mayor.
I'm just going to ask clarification from Ms Wotan.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't consider it relevant. I think that if the motion goes forward and that organisation are invited to attend the council meeting, then at that point you can ask questions of them while they're present. I don't think it's relevant in the context of the speeches that we've heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure the councillors...
Thank you.
Sorry?
No, thank you. Please carry on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Mayor. I'm sure the councillors would have been delighted to discuss the House of Fraser purchase, but never got the chance. In this context, it is a real concern that some trustees potentially appear focused on a large-scale development of a publicly gifted green space for what a reasonable person might assume for potential benefit of some advisors and associates outside the public eye and not transparently reported, as I have made the point previously. As a valued local organisation, Frimley Fuel Allotments needs to be more transparent with residents. Trustees should remember their wider reputations are at risk if they are not seen to act for their beneficiaries with the broad consent of the wider local community. Thank you, Mayor. I will support the motion.
Thank you. I think we've concluded the debate. Councillor Rowlands?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to address this question of transparency. Transparency. I have to think very carefully. This is disclosing something that might not be disclosed, but there is already an example of the reaction of one of the parties to any discussion, that's Frimley Park Hospital, moving to almost terminate any discussion on the relationship with Frimley Park, with the trustees, on the basis that information had been revealed. So where is your transparency in that situation? So the trustees have to walk a very difficult path and find it very difficult in this context to cope with the pressures on them. So quite clearly, any arrangement of this kind requires incredible confidentiality, which could cause the whole thing to collapse from its very beginning. So there is no opportunity for the type of transparency that I've heard represented here. And of course, anybody understanding these types of engagements would realise that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. Can I ask Councillor Lee to exercise your right of reply?
On my days, Mayor, yeah, go on. It's been quite a feisty debate, hasn't it? I think the only one I haven't had mentioned this evening is Liz Truss. Oops, sorry. So I think looking through... Sorry, Councillor Wheeler, I didn't quite hear you. Do you want to pop your microphone on so we can all hear you? The floor's yours.
I have already spoken, so I can't speak again.
Please don't interrupt then.
She actually said she's got better places to be.
Oh, she's got better places to be.
Can we just...
dear.
can you just
This is
exercise
feisty.
your right to reply, please,
Oh,
Councillor Lee? Thank you very
Mayor,
much.
absolutely. So I think we've heard quite an interesting array of discussion tonight, both in favour and against. I think one of the bits that really stood out for me was Councillor Kang touching on the criteria and the importance of brownfield sites. I think that's pretty crucial. I think the transport links around the Frimley fuel allotments are pretty interesting. I wasn't aware the Mindenhurst development was funding a dual carriageway of the Maltway, and I certainly wasn't aware of the Mindenhurst development funding a dual carriageway of Bisley Road or Chobham Road, which could potentially result with extensive loss of residents' gardens. So if that's something that's coming in... Councillor Wheeler, you've interrupted again. Mayor, could you have a word with Councillor Wheeler interrupting me? It's a bit rude.
Sorry, Councillor Lee, can you just exercise your right to reply, and can other members just refrain? Just thank you very much. Thank you.
You're very kind. Thank you. So obviously I was talking about potential dual carriaging way of roads to be able to get that volume of traffic there. We then touch on infrastructure as well. How would you get any infrastructure to that site? Because it's fuel allotments, so there's no gas, there's no water. We've heard from many residents on a regular basis. I think one of the water companies is coming to external partnerships. They are kind enough to come along with constant water pressure issues. That's a challenge there. There's no sewage. A hospital requires multiple diverse power supplies. So you're starting to look at a project that could potentially take 20 years to even come to fruition. And of course, Councillor Cope touched on we've got to get on with it now. I think we all agree we need to get on with sorting out the hospital, but advocating a site which potentially could take 20 years because there is no infrastructure there at all. I mean, are we talking about pylons coming in through Frimley and Camberley? Is this what Councillor Cope's advocating? Pylons coming in through Woking to be able to get the power in, because that's the quickest way. How is gas and sewage going to get there? Have Thames Water been consulted? I mean, talking about consulting, I'll tell you a little bit of a story. So we'll go back to May 2023. I was told in May 2023 that the site for Frimley Park Hospital was going to be Frimley fuel allotments. I have a witness that stated that, okay? And it was a senior person that said that. Now, I'm pretty sure these consultations took place after I'd been told that. So that, to me, sounds a little bit like predetermination. So I'd like some answers, myself as well, on that, although I guess I'm supposed to get back to summating. I think, Councillor Wheeler, you touched on, was it VSCs, if I remember rightly? They're not required for this land because it's not in the green belt. And, of course, the SPA doesn't apply, as I'm sure you well know from your experience, because this isn't housing. So it changes the dynamic. Get through my notes so I don't make too much mistake. I think it's completely reasonable for members to contact the trustees. When you have an issue with your neighbour, do you go running to the police? Do you go running to the government? Or do you start a conversation with your neighbours first? And I urge everyone who's got concerns to openly contact all of the trustees and speak to them. It's part of what you do with an organisation. You know, they are volunteers who've chosen to serve on that charity. And part of that is engaging with neighbours. You cannot carry on as is happening at the moment in isolation with blinkers on, pretending you don't need to talk to your neighbours. That's not how it works in this world. It's a reality. I'm quite interested to understand a little bit more about the protection for council-appointed trustees. You know, what protection do I have? That's a question, but I probably should think aloud on that one. And I think, you know, there are multiple breaches of the so-called NDAs by multiple people. We've seen quite an extensive number of alleged breaches by NDAs by the Frimley Park hospital side, with various quotes online, with some details that can only have come from someone on the inside. So,
sorry, Councillor Lee, I'm just taking some advice from our monitoring officer.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask Councillor Lee to restrict his reply to the points that have been raised? We don't know if there's an NDA in place. We haven't got information about that. That's not the point of your motion. So I think if you could just stick to responding to the points that were raised in your right to reply.
I'm happy to have completed my summation, including naming Frimley fuel allotments as the site, as I was told in May 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. I believe that Councillor Quinn did ask for a recorded... Oh, Councillor Garrett, did you ask for a record? Oh, sorry.
Just point of order. I did ask a question of the monitoring officer, reference the... If this gets passed tonight and the Frimley fuel allotments came to external partnerships, is it relevant for the vote of the chair and vice chair as trustees of said charity to scrutinise that charity? I would just like to get a feel for that, if that's possible.
Can I respond to you in writing afterwards? Thank you.
Sorry, that's fine.
Thank you.
Councillor Finan-Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier, Councillor Garrett requested a recorded vote. I would like to add my name to that request.
Thank you. So we need one other. Councillor Wheeler, thank you.
Councillor Alan Ashbury. For. Councillor Louise Ashbury.
For.
Councillor Cliff Betton.
Abstain.
Councillor Johnny Cope.
Against.
Councillor Kel Finan-Cook.
For.
Councillor Lisa Finan-Cook.
For.
Councillor Sean Garrett.
Against.
Councillor Julie Howd. For. Councillor Dave Howe.
For.
Councillor Nirmal Kang.
For.
Councillor Sabi Kang.
For.
Councillor Rob Lee.
For.
Councillor Sean MacDonald.
For.
Councillor Leanne McIntyre.
For.
Councillor Jack Almo.
For.
Councillor David O'Mahony.
Mayor, Councillor O'Mahony has been absent for the whole of this discussion, so he will not be voting in any way. Thank you.
Councillor Jonathan Quinn.
Against.
Councillor Bob Rakes.
For.
Councillor Murray Rowlands.
Against.
Councillor Morgan Rise.
For.
Councillor John Skipper.
A point of order. Councillor Skipper did leave the chamber partway during this, and therefore I don't believe he's eligible to vote.
That applies to planning committee, so that's fine for this vote. He can vote. Thank you. Councillor John Skipper.
For.
Councillor Pat Tedder.
Against.
Councillor Kevin Thompson.
For.
Councillor Ying Tong Perrott.
For.
Councillor Victoria Wheeler.
Against.
Councillor David Whitcroft.
For.
Councillor Valerie White.
Against.
Councillor Richard Wilson.
For.
Yeah. Yeah.
Members, I declare the vote carried. 19 for, 7 against and 1 abstain. So we're on to item 10, which is local government reorganisation. I would like to invite the Chief Executive to introduce the report on local government reorganisation.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder if we give an opportunity for people in the gallery to leave if they don't want to listen to this particular item. I know it's very enthralling, but I don't think you're here for this. Entirely your prerogative. I have a nap. Thank you for your patience, councillors. Time flies. It's actually almost a year since we had the English devolution white paper in front of us. And I think it's fair to say that the level of work that's been conducted by officers across Surrey has been significant. You have a report in front of you, and before I go into that, I just have a few words. You'll be aware that since October, we've been aware of the outcome of local government reorganisation in Surrey. And the outcome may not necessarily be what we have supported in the Chamber, but we are now actively working with our colleagues across Surrey to make sure that we move at pace to implement the 2 unitary make-up across the entire county. The paper before you, with its lengthy recommendation, which covers 2 slides on the screen, is similar to many that are being considered by other districts and boroughs across the county. And it seeks to ensure we've got sufficient delegations in place to be able to move at the pace required to implement local government reorganisation by the vesting day as mandated by government of April 2027. The report seeks support for the creation of and also our participation in voluntary joint committees, and that is recommendation 1 on the screen in front of you, the first of which is proposed for January next year. And they will continue through until the enactment of the structural changes order, following which formal joint committees will commence. And they are expected to be in place by March next year. In truth, there's little to distinguish between the 2 other than the legislation which forms them. The voluntary joint committees or the statutory joint committees essentially will have the same mandate and the same responsibilities. The joint committees are going to be disbanded once the shadow authorities are formed following the May elections. And the formation of joint committees as soon as possible with clear terms of reference is critical to ensure we have proper governance structures in place and oversight as we progress towards those shadow authorities. The report also seeks delegation to agree the terms of reference to the leader of Surrey Heath Borough Council and the Chief Executive, and that is set out in recommendation 4. And there is a further recommendation, recommendation 2, that proposes that the leader of the council be appointed as Surrey Heath's representative on the voluntary and the formal joint committees. And this is due to his extensive involvement in local government reorganisation discussions across Surrey to date. You'll also note the approval of implementation costs for local government reorganisation, and that is within recommendation 7. Now, it's clear to point out that this is an estimate and is based on a split of 80-20 between the county and the districts and boroughs, and our apportionment as a borough council is based on the 2024 council tax base. This has been gone through with a fine-tooth comb by the Section 151 officers, at both the county and district and borough level, and they feel this is the best apportionment mechanism. We are also proposing to change the flexible use of capital receipts policy, which was last in front of you in February, and that's in recommendation 8. These changes reflect changes in government regulations and will allow the use of capital receipts to fund the estimated implementation costs as qualifying expenditure. You'll also note in recommendation number 9, the discontinuation of a consultation to change the names of 2 borough wards, that's Bagshot and Windlesham and Chobham. This is due to the structural changes order requiring wards within the new unitaries to be the same as those set out in the Surrey electoral changes order 2024. As these borough wards will cease to exist from April 2027 onwards, we do not feel this is a prudent use of our very limited officer resources. The last thing I would like to do is just thank the officers, because between December last year and this, there has been an extensive amount of effort put in above the day job to support discussions around local government reorganisation, that being through the Section 151 officer groups, the monitoring officer groups, the comms officer groups, and many more besides. So just a profuse thank you, and thank you for your patience, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Stevens. I would like to invite comments on the report and ask for a member to move a motion in respect of this report. Councillor MacDonald.
I'd like to propose and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Do you have a seconder?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to second the recommendations in the officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. Councillor MacDonald, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Thank you. You'll be glad to know, look, my papers won't take long. First of all, I think the point that Mr Stevens made is extremely valid. A huge amount of work has been done by the officers, not just of this council, other councils as well, and is much appreciated. On top, I think. And I think I alluded to that in my earlier statement around the diplomacy skills that have had to be deployed to get us all moving in the right direction. So very much appreciated, particularly Mr Stevens' support. This is really an enabling report, and Mr Stevens has talked about all the detail of it, and it's in the writing. It's really an enabling report that allows us to move forward with LGR and to make the sensible adjustments that we need to make as we go forward. I think the commitment on my part is to continue to come back to this council in its various forms, whether it be here or executive, to keep you updated. Very happy to answer any questions. I seem to be getting them everywhere I turn these days. I can't go anywhere without somebody asking me about LGR and Woking's debt and a few other things related to it. So that's the commitment on my part. Listen, we have our differences. We've explored some of those this evening. I think my worst critics wouldn't say that I'm not diligent in trying and work through things in detail, and to try and make sure that we get the best result for Surrey Heath. And you've seen that with some of the changes we've made with committees, and thank you to Lisa for picking up 1 or 2 things just to free up some time, because it's not just attending these meetings, it's attending all the webinars around it to try and get the necessary insights and support. So just today, for example, on children's social services. So my commitment to you and to the residents of Surrey Heath is to represent you the best way I can, to report back to you, and to be very open to your questions as we go through this journey together. I think, as Mr Stevens said, to a degree, this wasn't, as you know, what I would have wanted to see happen. I think we have ended up with a monster authority, and we've ended up with a lot of issues as a function of the deprivation in the West, the heavy debt in the West, and the lack of council tax raising in the West. But apart from that, we're going to make it a really great outcome in the end, and I will do my best to try and see that happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Ashbury, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. As many of you know, I've spoken a number of times in this chamber about my reluctance to procrastinate on certain decisions, with the hope that local government reorganisation would somehow miraculously fix all of our issues. However, on the 28th of October, the government signalled its desire to form 2 new councils in Surrey, and although the structural change order has not yet made it onto the statute books, it is now clear on the direction of travel. Whilst I may fundamentally disagree with the choice that has been made, particularly with the haste and aggressive timetable proposed for implementation, the situation is what it is. And therefore, I believe that Surrey Heath Borough Council should have a seat at the table, and that the leader of the council and the chief executive should be the individuals to represent the residents of Surrey Heath as we move through the voluntary and formal joint committee process. I am deeply troubled that the new West Surrey Council, of which Surrey Heath will be part, will start life with huge debts. And I commend the motion that was agreed yesterday at Surrey County Council, calling on the Ministry to work with the new authority to look at how to ring-fence the debts of Woking and Spelthorne and provide further debt relief so that the new authority can actually develop a balanced budget on day one. I still believe that this council should not seek to procrastinate over the decisions before us in the lead up to vesting date in 2027. I believe that this council can and must continue to act in the interests of our residents over the next 16 months. And I'm pleased that we are to reach out once again to community organisations early in the new year to see how we can continue to develop community infrastructure that will benefit Surrey Heath residents long into the future. Before I finish, with your permission, Mayor, I would just like to touch on a related topic, that of the current Community Governance Review. Following the reorganisation of Surrey, I believe that there is a danger, particularly in the unparished areas of our borough, that we could lose some of the localism that I believe is the right thing for our residents. And I urge all residents to take part in the current consultation to decide how our borough is governed into the future. And I urge all members to engage with your residents, to persuade them to take part and let us have their views. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. Do you have any comments? I think Councillor Garrett was first, Councillor Rowlands.
Thank you.
Councillor Noble Kane.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I always worry, every time I hear the term the ministry in this chamber, I always think, as a Harry Potter fan, I always think about the Ministry of Magic. Anyway, thank you. I'd like to firstly echo the comments. Thank you to all the officers. 12 months has flown past, but I'm sure for the officers it's been a very long time. So thank you to everybody involved in that. The reference to the leader's comments, you said you'll come back to us at full council or executive. I'm concerned we might be looking at executives every 6 weeks and full council. So if there's anything that's obviously hot that we might need to know, I'm guessing that'll come out in the members' briefing. So it obviously keeps informed. My only real question is related to point 7, I think it is. So the amount of money to spend, 539,000, which is coming from capital receipts. Is this this isn't an exact figure, I'm guessing. It could change. Is there an element that you have to come back to full council, or has this got some flexibility in this figure? Because I notice in 8, it does say the change flexible use of capital receipts. I'd just like to set a bit of a clarification on that. Thank you.
Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Rowlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I was highlighting the point about capital receipts. What's not said, what we're actually sacrificing to actually move our capital receipts around in this way. It's just a rather naive question, perhaps, but I just wonder whether the movement of our capital receipts in this way is the best. I mean, what are we actually sacrificing in the ends of that? So I think that was a crucial thing I looked at in going through the observations.
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. I think our Councillor MacDonald will clarify that at the end. Councillor Mulcahy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just following on from Councillor Rowlands about a couple of expenditure. I just want a clarification that Surrey County Council contribute 80% and the Boroughs Plus contribute 20%. But some of the assets belong to the boroughs. Are they being sold? I mean, I just want clarification. Are they just something that came a site being sold in Staines, and I think it was maybe some Chertsey. I mean, that capital expenditure being used to fund this changes. I just want a clarification on that.
Councillor MacDonald. Any other further questions, comments? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. So I can let members know, particularly Councillor Garrett, that yes, the shorthand for the ministry is the Ministry of Magic. So if you see me do something like MOM in an email, you'll know what that refers to. But I think the technical term is MHCLG, but I find that a bit of a mouthful. We're yet to see any significant positive magic, I think. But who knows? It comes good in the end, doesn't it, Harry Potter? So maybe we should keep the faith. In terms of the frequency of feedback, listen, the Chief Executive will definitely keep me honest in that, but I'll do it anyway as and when required, as will Councillor Ashbury when he gets involved in various things as well. So it's important that we have a substitute. I mean, we don't have a lot of buses in Surrey Heath, as you know, but then one might hit me. So Councillor Ashbury will be kept abreast of developments as well, so he can represent things as and when required, represent us as and when required. We shouldn't be too excited about the rate of progress. I think it's going to be pretty slow. The first joint committee meeting, I think, is probably going to be around the middle of January. There'll probably be one a month. The agendas are things like we should have a terms of reference. We should be nice to each other in terms of our debating styles and stuff. So, listen, I don't want to trivialise it, but it is kind of administrative, the first one, and then hopefully we'll get a little bit more serious after that. The focus very much at the moment for the implementation team, which the Senior Responsible Officer, or SRO, as you will see, used a lot, of which our Chief Executive is now Deputy SRO for the West Surrey side, or Surrey is nominated to be. We still need to go procedure, I think, through that step. Is actually making sure we've got the right officer resources in the right themes across the agenda that needs to be covered, and that we start thinking through the resource implications of freeing up the very best people. And it is important that we do free up the best people, because transitional projects go wrong when you don't put the best people into the project team and make them own the solution into the long term, which of course is a bit difficult for us as councillors, because we're sort of in here at the moment. We don't know whether we'll be in here after May next year. Well, obviously in this council, but not in another format. So, but that is very important, and I know the Chief Executive and his peers will work very hard to make sure we get the right people in the various areas. And there is also a focus on making sure there's a clear data room of everything that's going on at county and district and borough level, so we're making the assumptions on the right basis. To go to Councillor Kang's point, very valid point, I think that's under the section 24, Councillor Kang, which is all about the restrictions on asset sales. So up to June next year, the councils are, well, they always will be independent sovereign bodies, but they won't need to consult with other councils about what they do within their own asset base. So we can expect to see things happen. I think Surrey put through a slug in the last week or two, through their committee. Obviously, we've done little bits and pieces, though I think that's tailing off, which I think some people might be pleased about. Who have been at the eye of the storm. So after that date, other asset sales can continue, but it needs to be consulted with the relevant other sovereign councils. So don't get too worried about that. I think it was yourself, Councillor Garrett, that raised around the money side of things. So I think Mr Stevens would also recognise I was kind of on the back of the relevant officer when this was discussed at the joint meeting of the leaders and the office of chief executives, to basically say, is it the right number? How are we controlling the number? Who's going to scrutinise afterwards? Who's going to audit afterwards? And I have to say to you in all honesty, not all of that is nailed down yet, but it is clearly recognised that it needs to be nailed down. And it's likely to be Surrey because they've got 80% of the money, so let's not complicate it. And I think the other thing to say in that regard is that I think they're going to have a special account so that this money is ring-fenced for this activity. But I need to say, in all honesty and transparency, the numbers that were in the proposal were best guesses. They're best guesses based on previous experience. Time moves on, complexity moves on, so we don't know exactly what our number will be. I do know that Cumbria's number was 19 million. We're twice the size. We're 3 or 4 years down the line. 35 might be a little bit light. But we do intend, coming back to full council, etc., we intend, not that I think Mrs Radford and Councillor McIntyre know fully about this yet, we do intend to try and build some contingency into the budget for next year, not just to cover this number, but to cover any overspend that we start to experience on the basis that it's not effective and efficient to call extraordinary councils for that purpose, particularly where it's not the administration per se. Thank you for flexibility, Mayor, by that. It's not per se the administration's issue, it's a wider issue across the whole county that we're addressing. And I think we're all sort of quite concerned about IT as being and data being one of the numbers that could get away from us, and the use of external consultants. So I think I've covered off everybody's points. If not, please grab me afterwards. And as I said, I'll do my very best to represent the borough and to keep you informed. And please, most of you got my number. If you haven't, I'll give it to you. Don't give it to other people though. And we can talk about it as issues arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. I would now like to move to the vote on the proposal. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's everyone, isn't it? Yeah. Just to check for any abstention. Okay. That's it.
Thank you. I declare, sorry, hands down. I declare the vote carried. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11, I propose that the recommendation of the report that we noted the changes to the membership of the committees is agreed. Do I have a seconder?
Thank you for agreeing. I second that.
Is that noted? Thank you. So item 12, questions from councillors. Members, I will remind you that we have new procedures that we agreed earlier on this year. I would now like to... Oh, sorry, councillor. Oh, these are questions. Yeah. I would now like to invite members to ask questions of the leader, a portfolio holder, a committee chair, or me as the mayor. Okay, so I think we had Councillor Lee and Councillor Wilson for what first? Then was it Councillor Wheeler? Yep, that's right. I think we're over here. Oh, yeah, Councillor Cope, Councillor Garrett. Who was that one? Councillor. If any of you disagree, please make it known.
Thompson. And then Valerie White.
Yeah. Oh, Councillor Lee.
I'll be quick, given there's so many. I've received a copy of the survey that the council received prior to the purchase of House of Fraser. I understand the document was missing. It's a question to the leader of the council. Can we put that straight into the public domain? Obviously, I have a copy now, so it's no longer lost.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Wilson. Oh, sorry, Councillor MacDonald. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for delegating that, Mayor. That's very kind of you. Yes, happy to look into that and take some advice whether that's appropriate or not. I think we did ask quite extensive questions around some of that documentation with a view to making it visible to and in the public domain. So if there's additional documentation that now has come to light, then we'll certainly look at it, but I will need to take just an officer opinion on that. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Chobham Poor Allotments charity owns many pieces of land in Chobham and West End. It also has about £1.5 million in liquid assets. It was set up in the 19th century to benefit the people of Chobham and West End. However, it only distributed about £20,000 in the last year for which information is available. The charity has sold some land recently and appears to be planning to sell more. There is strong unmet demand for allotments in Chobham, and these land sales will potentially change the village considerably. The public deserve to be consulted on this, but they haven't even been informed by the trustees of the charity what their plan is for Chobham. A few months ago, the charity changed its constitution to remove the right of Chobham and West End parish councils to appoint representatives to the Board of Trustees. The public was not consulted on this. Around 50 residents have formed the Chobham Action Group to raise concerns about the governance of this charity. There appears to be insufficient communications with the public, inadequate adherence to the charitable aims of the Trust, a lack of rotation of trustees, and insufficient reporting of conflicts of interest. Does the leader join me in sharing these concerns? If so, will he write to the trustees requesting they hold a public meeting to answer residents' questions? And if they refuse, will he write to the Charity Commission? The money and assets of Chobham Poor Allotments exist for the benefit of the residents of the parish, and they have a legitimate right to transparency on how it is managed. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor MacDonald, would you like to?
Thank you, Mayor. I have to say that I can't agree with you until I get into the detail of what the particular issue is, and I'm not sufficiently across detail to do that, but I'm happy to look into it further. I have had a number of residents raise this issue with me. I think it never rains but when it pours. It seems to be charity night here tonight at Surrey Heath Borough Council, but I think consistent with the motion earlier asking for transparency with respect to Frimley fuel allotments, it wouldn't be unreasonable to ask for the same thing in this case. But it's difficult for me specifically to agree to your first point because I'm not sufficiently into the detail. But there's no reason why I can't write a letter to encourage the charity to engage with its residents, seeing as it's within the confines of Surrey Heath. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Kang, I believe, but more... Dr. Kang. Oh, Councillor Dr. Kang. Thank you. And we'll... Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Oh, sorry. Did you want to...
The members that I am a trustee of the Chobham Poor Allotment, just for
clarification.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Tedder. Councillor Dr. Kang.
Thank you, Mayor. It's regarding the consultation, the CGR consultation, and it's particularly for residents in unparished areas. I will be doing my part as a councillor in knocking doors to engage residents to make sure they have their say. And this consultation obviously finishes in January 16th, 2026. I want to really emphasise that because of this poor return in the previous consultation, what can we do as a group to ensure that the residents are engaged and that we do get more responses for this very important consultation, particularly for the unparished areas.
Thank you, Dr. Kang. Thank you, Councillor Garrett.
MacDonald.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Councillor MacDonald.
It's been a long night, Mayor. It's been a long night. Thank you, Mayor.
Too many Seans.
You can't have enough Seans, can you? Come on. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kang, for your question. Yes, so we really do want to have as many responses as possible. I think we're all clear on that. That was consistent in the previous motion. I don't think there was a lot of dissent on that point, that we should be encouraging local people to respond as to their wishes. So my understanding, hopefully we'll get a nod from the dais, is that there should be a leaflet going through every door of the non-parished areas, hopefully this week, and similarly in the Windlesham parish area. So that should help hopefully stimulate some attention. I'm fairly sure I saw some Windlesham related elves delivering leaflets on Sunday morning, so there may be some other activities ongoing to raise awareness as well. And perhaps the Chief Executive could organise Santa Claus to also do that on his delivery run this year, seeing as he'll be going through every chimney. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Wheeler. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. It's nice that we're doing things on a theme, because my question also relates to the CGR. As Councillor MacDonald has said, residents have delivered leaflets in Windlesham over the weekend and into this week. And one of the questions that has arisen as a result of that is how people engage if they don't have access to be online. And I wondered, please, if I could have absolute clarity on that, so that I can feed it back through the relevant social media pages. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wheeler. And they were very diligent elves as well, because it was raining. So you've got some good elves over there in Windlesham. So yes, Councillor Wilson has also raised this issue around people that don't have access to online capability. And I think the system has been tested at our end and found not to be 100% perfect. So I've certainly, myself, all I can say is I personally have let the relevant service head make them aware to try and ensure that the relevant people know how to do that. But I am going to defer to the Chief Executive, because, as you know, he knows a lot more than I do. And perhaps he can just update us on where we stand with non-digital access, whether customer services, whether democratic services are all geared up to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Leader. It feels uncomfortable to stand for such a short answer. We do have printed copies which are available in the council offices, and we can share out as well, Councillor Wheeler, if you wish for us to do so. We'll do our absolute best to make sure they are distributed into sensible places.
May I just have a quick clarification on that? So if we pick up copies, are we able to leave them, for example, with the Derby and Joan Club and some of the older areas? Is that all right? In which case I'd be really happy to take some out with me this evening if there are any available. Thank you. As I'm sure with Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Wheeler. Again, standing for a short answer. I don't believe we'll be able to provide any for this evening, but I'm sure we can pass them on to you so you can circulate them at your wish.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, recognising the planned housing development in town and in St Michael's wards, could the council approach the Ministry of Defence to discuss making land at the Royal Military Academy available for residents in both those wards, as happened in the past?
Thank you, Councillor Rowlands. I believe Councillor Ashby is going to answer this one.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Rowlands. I think there's a couple of points in there. One is public used to have access to land at the RMA, which a few years ago was restricted, I believe, to 1 day per year. for concerns of security. I think as we are looking to develop Camberley Town and the regeneration of Camberley Town, I don't think it's unreasonable for us as a council to write to the RMA to request that once again we are given access on certain days of the year with certain restrictions to just open the dialogue with them as to whether or not we could make that possible as has been possible in the past. So I'm happy to work with you on that and write to the RMA to make that request and to try to work with them on making it possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. Councillor Cope.
Thank you. Earlier this week, stand up. Okay. I've been told off for not standing up. Earlier this week, the Housing Secretary gave an interview where he admitted that there's going to need to be a sharp increase in house building in order for the government to meet its targets. I had a look at the figures for Surrey Heath, and I think they're actually quite disgraceful. Our target is 684 homes per year over the last 3 years, and 301 per year have been built. In 2025 to September, only 139 homes received a new energy performance certificate, indicating that's the number that was built in that time period, and that's a decline of 75 on the previous year. Why are we doing so diabolically poorly at delivering housing in Surrey Heath, and what can this council do about it?
Thank you, Councillor Cope. Councillor Ashbury.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cope. I note that you are quoting the Labour government numbers for housing and not those that are in our local plan, which is currently at examination, because our numbers are in our local plan were not the 600 and plus, which was a doubling of our quota in December last year. Our number is 324. That is what is going through the local plan at the moment. We will, as you point out, have to look at when we adopt our local plan, which is an advantage to us because we can then adopt all the policies in that plan. We will have to re-look at where those extra homes are going to come from over the life of the local plan as we renew it over the next 15 years. You're quite correct, but we are working currently on the current local plan, which is at examination, on the number which was in existence prior when we submitted the local plan in December last year.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. Councillor Garrett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The leader will be happy that I'm not going to ask him to write a letter because he seems to be writing lots of letters, and maybe he'll write a letter to Santa Claus. Firstly, also, Merry Christmas to everyone in Chamber and all the officers, because it's probably the only chance going to get a chance. We don't speak about questions in advance, and I was going to ask a related question, although it's not exactly that. I know it came to PNF about 2 or 3 weeks ago with the annual plan, and I've noticed as being a member of the planning committee that in the last 3 or 4 months, we've gone from having 3 or 4 planning applications on a regular basis to 1, 2 in the last month, and now we're not having one for this month. I just want to follow on from sort of the question of Councillor Cope. Obviously, we get income from planning applications. So is there a specific issue? Is it because developers aren't developing because of government strategies, whatever? Have you got some feedback on as to why we've got less applications coming through?
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Ashbury.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Garrett. The simple answer, you've already alluded to it, is across the country, you will have read the statistics that since the election last year of the new government and the plans to build 1.5 million more homes, there have actually been fewer planning applications passed nationally than in the previous year. We cannot force developers to develop. What we can do is try to work with them to encourage them to do that. But we are not alone in this situation. And I would actually just refer you back 3 months when we had to put on an extra planning committee because we did have too many in the backlog. So whilst I accept the concern, and I accept the concerns that both you and Councillor Cope have raised, we cannot force people to build, and this is a national issue, not just a Surrey Heath issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ashbury. I am aware that we are pretty much out of time for the questions almost, but if people would like to carry on we've got about four more councillors to go, if everyone's happy to keep it a bit concise, a bit brief. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Could the leader of the council, who's obviously also leader of the Liberal Democrat group, please confirm that in line with normal council protocol, that should Frimley fuel allotments be called before and attend external partnerships, that Councillor Lee and Councillor Glowett would in fact be substituted? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, for your question. Yeah, I mean, we've taken all of the members, I think, of the Liberal Democrat group out of this chamber for an issue that was about 20 grand relating to a bicycle rack down the road here from memory. So we would definitely not want to see see our record tarnished in terms of ensuring due process was followed. So very happy to make that commitment that should the External Partnerships Committee be graced by the presence of the Chair and Treasurer of Frimley Fuel Allotments, we'll make sure that all the people from our group that are there would be impartial, and then it's down for the committee to elect the Chair, I think, under the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a quick question about CGR. You started it, so encouraging councillors to speak to residents and hopefully that they will vote on this. I've had a couple of emails from people and a couple of conversations, and one person has said to me, below is my feedback, which I would like you to see, and hopefully someone actually looks at these comments rather than it just being an admin exercise. Can we have guarantee that the comments are looked at and they will be taken into consideration?
Yes, I think we have a very dedicated Democratic Services team, as you know, Councillor White, so they absolutely will be looking at these comments and making sure that they pull out the themes and then feed that back to I don't know whether it'll go to the working group first, but certainly back to the council in due course when we need to look at this. Yeah, and it's great that you're encouraging residents to get involved as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Hode. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is also hopefully brief and also relates to that review. I'm planning, as are a number of others, to get out into my ward, into my community, and encourage residents to engage with that process without giving any view as to how I may think, but to encourage engagement. The question I have is, we actually have 3 different questions out there, one for unparished wards, one for residents in Lightwater and Bagshaw, and one for Windlesham. They're different questions. The printed piece, which I'd like to take out and get into the community, are there 3 different printed pieces, or are they all the same, but they just have to find the relevant part on that for where they live? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hode. Councillor MacDonald or Mr Stevens?
I think their answer is yes, and the Chief Executive will correct me if I'm wrong. But thank you for your question. I am just a little bit concerned about too many paper copies going out in one go, but maybe that's something that Democratic Service could think about, because it feels like potentially blank ballots going out. So I'm a little bit concerned about that personally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor MacDonald. Okay, thank you. Okay. That concludes the business of the meeting, and I would like to thank everybody for attending, and I'd love to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And there are some heroes out there if you'd like to help yourself to a chocolate on the way out. Safe journey home. Thank you very much.